Imagine a world where China's factories grind to a halt, where its cities go dark, where its military becomes paralyzed, all because of one narrow waterway halfway across the world. This isn't science fiction, it's China's greatest strategic nightmare. The Strait of Malacca, a 550-mile passage between Malaysia and Indonesia, is the world's busiest shipping lane. Every day, over 15 million barrels of oil pass through this narrow corridor. For China, this isn't just a trade route, it's an artery. Here's the terrifying reality for Beijing. 80% of China's oil imports must pass through the Malacca Strait. That's 4 out of every 5 barrels that power China's economy. One blockade could cripple the world's second-largest economy in weeks. This vulnerability has a name, the Malacca Dilemma. Coined by former Chinese President Hu Jintao in 2003, it describes China's over-reliance on this single choke point. For Chinese strategists, it's not a hypothetical, it's an existential threat. To understand why this matters, we must look at history. China has faced maritime blockades before. During the Opium Wars, British ships controlled China's coastal waters. In World War II, Japan blockaded Chinese ports. But today's threat is different. Modern China depends on global trade like never before. Its economy has grown 100-fold since 1978. This incredible growth comes with incredible vulnerability, all concentrated in one narrow strait. Who controls the Malacca Strait today? Technically, it's international waters, but practically, it's monitored by the United States Navy. American ships patrol these waters, and in a conflict, they could seal China's lifeline. This isn't just about oil. 60% of China's total trade passes through Southeast Asian straits. Everything from electronics to grain to industrial equipment. A blockade would trigger economic collapse within months. China's response has been what strategists call the string of pearls. Since the 1990s, China has built ports and military facilities across the Indian Ocean. From Pakistan to Sri Lanka to Africa, each a potential lifeline. But ports aren't enough. China needs pipelines. The China-Myanmar pipeline runs from the Bay of Bengal to Yunnan province. It can carry 22 million tons of oil annually, a small but crucial alternative to Malacca. Then there's the Kra Canal proposal, a century-old dream. A canal across Thailand's Isthmus of Kra would bypass Malacca entirely. But environmental concerns and geopolitical tensions have kept it on the drawing board. China's most ambitious solution, the Belt and Road Initiative. By building land routes through Central Asia, China hopes to reduce its maritime dependence. But these routes are longer, slower, and more expensive. The military dimension is equally critical. China has been building what analysts call an anti-access area denial capability. Advanced missiles, submarines, and aircraft designed to keep enemy navies away from Chinese waters. But here's the problem. China's navy, while growing rapidly, still can't project power to the Malacca Strait. That's 2,500 miles from Chinese shores. The US Navy, with bases in Japan and Singapore, dominates these waters. This creates what military theorists call the first island chain problem. From Japan through Taiwan to the Philippines, US allies form a barrier. Breaking through this chain to reach Malacca would be a monumental challenge. The historical parallel is striking. In the 15th century, Admiral Zheng He's treasure fleets dominated these same waters, but China turned inward, abandoning naval power. Today, China is racing to reclaim what it lost. Climate change adds another layer. As Arctic ice melts, the northern sea route becomes viable. Ships from Europe could reach China via Russia's north coast, bypassing Malacca entirely. But this route remains seasonal and risky. Meanwhile, China's energy consumption keeps growing. By 2030, China will need to import 15 million barrels of oil daily, up from 10 million today. The Malacca Strait will become even more critical, not less. This creates a security dilemma. As China builds its navy to protect its shipping, neighbors feel threatened. As neighbors strengthen alliances with the US, China feels encircled. It's a classic spiral of mistrust. The economic costs are staggering. Insurance rates for ships passing through potential conflict zones could skyrocket. Shipping delays would disrupt global supply chains. The entire world economy would feel the impact. Some analysts suggest China should stockpile oil. Strategic petroleum reserves could buy time, but current reserves cover only 90 days of imports. In a prolonged conflict, this wouldn't be enough. The technological solution: alternative energy. China leads the world in solar and wind power installation, but oil remains essential for transportation and industry. The transition will take decades. Diplomatically, China has tried to reassure neighbors. The maritime Silk Road concept emphasizes cooperation, but territorial disputes in the South China Sea undermine this message. The human dimension is often overlooked. 150,000 Chinese sailors pass through the Malacca Strait annually. Their safety depends on stable geopolitics. For their families back home, this isn't abstract, it's personal. Historical wisdom offers perspective. Sun Tzu wrote in The Art of War, "Know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated." China knows its vulnerability. The question is whether it can overcome it. Compare this to other great powers. The United States controls both Atlantic and Pacific coasts. Russia has Arctic routes. Only China, among major powers, depends so heavily on a single choke point it doesn't control. The piracy threat adds complexity. While reduced recently, Malacca was once the world's piracy hotspot. Security depends on international cooperation, something that could collapse during tensions. China's inland development strategy makes sense in this context. By moving industry westward, closer to Central Asian routes, China reduces coastal vulnerability. But this is a generational project. The nuclear option: some suggest China could seize control of the strait militarily, but this would trigger global war. The costs would far outweigh any benefits. It remains a last resort fantasy. Meanwhile, China builds artificial islands in the South China Sea. These aren't just about territory, they're potential monitoring stations. Early warning of naval movements toward Malacca. The financial markets understand this risk. Insurance premiums for Malacca transit reflect geopolitical tensions. When US-China relations sour, shipping costs rise. The market votes with its dollars. Environmental threats matter too. A major oil spill in the strait could close it for months, or a tsunami like 2004's could disrupt shipping. Natural disasters compound strategic vulnerabilities. The demographic factor: China's population is aging. Future leaders may be less willing to risk conflict over distant waters. Domestic stability could become the priority over global ambitions. What does ancient Chinese philosophy say? The Taoist concept of Wu Wei, action through non-action, suggests patience. Rather than confront the dilemma directly, work around it gradually. The Confucian perspective emphasizes harmony, building trust with neighbors, creating win-win solutions. This aligns with China's official rhetoric, if not always its actions. Looking ahead, technology may provide solutions. Electric vehicles could reduce oil dependence. Automated shipping could navigate alternative routes. But these are long-term hopes, not short-term fixes. The ultimate irony: China's economic success created this vulnerability. As the world's factory, China needs imported oil. The very growth that made China powerful also made it dependent. So what's the solution? There isn't one single answer. It requires pipelines, diplomacy, naval power, alternative energy, and strategic patience. China must pursue all avenues simultaneously. The Malacca Dilemma will shape 21st century geopolitics. It influences everything from Chinese foreign policy to global trade patterns. Understanding it is key to understanding China's rise and its limits. In the end, China faces the same challenge all great powers do, securing its interests in a dangerous world. The Malacca Strait is merely the geographic manifestation of this eternal struggle. As we conclude, remember this: the narrow waters of Malacca carry not just oil tankers, but the dreams of a civilization. China's future, peaceful or conflicted, may well be decided in these strategic straits.